beats. Rap now, cry later. Am I a chronic abuser? Trying to steal a limelight like Red and Meth stole a dooster. Without your pack of lies, all pack of shooters. Just my wise guys in a pack of.
For the best bling, for the best prices, it's only one spot to go to. That's hiphopblink.com. And ladies, we tired of the ties and socks. We want rings with rocks, you dig? And when you there, make sure you put that promo code UWN. Y'all already know what it is, man. For the entire team, we out of here. Deuces.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UWN, the Urban Wrestling Network. This is the Adrenaline Rush Podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me is my boy, DC, in the place to be, Hey B, Daniel Crimmins. Dan, what is going on, man?
Living the dream.
Bro, that's all we can do is live the dream and do this thing that we call life, and what an amazing show that Impact Wrestling has produced. Impact Wrestling, the return, if you will, of the fallen angel Christopher Daniels, and TNA Impact Wrestling legend comes out, saves the walking weapon Josh Alexander from Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. Everybody's excited to see the return of Christopher Daniels. Now, for me, I started watching TNA in 2004, and I know you are a huge fan of the one and only fallen angel Christopher Daniels. So talk about how this is. Good.
You know, I remember way back when TNA was first, you know, they were doing the weekly shows back in, I'll say it was maybe 02, maybe.
Yeah, because I remember also doing the weekly shows. They were like $9.95 every Wednesday. So before you had the WWE Network, you were paying $9.95 for a TNA pay-per-view.
But if you think about that, about $9 per week, that equates to about $40, still than a WWE pay-per-view at the time.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. Is pay-per-view, is that still a thing? Like,
it is. I mean, some people pay like $40 for a pay-per-view, and they'll pay $50-something bucks for AEW. So yeah, it's still, you know, revenue.
Last I knew, like WrestleMania, that was like $60 or $70.
Yeah, for that amount. Oh yeah.
But hey, to each their own. But yeah, I remember I can remember the first time that I can definitively remember seeing Christopher Daniels. Well, actually, it was back before that. It was I remember in high school. I got I was buying like a WWE DVD at a FYE, and back when the physical medium was a thing. And you know, you could get like, if you spent X amount of dollars, and because I think what the promotion was, if you spent like 20 or $25 on like WWE DVDs or wrestling DVDs, you would get a certain number of DVDs for free. Like you would get like it was a very limited selection. What the DVD was, and I around here somewhere, was the inaugural tournament for the Ring of Honor title, and it was Christopher Daniels. And I remember, you know, he was like this, supposed to be like this evil demonic priest kind of thing, and he had a couple dark matches in WWE. Why they never signed him?
See, I don't get that, because it's funny, like you're talking about his WWE run. I remember he wrestled one match with Taka Michinoku on a Shotgun Saturday Night, like 98, when he still had hair. And I remember 2001, like on a late WCW, he wrestled Mike Modest. Remember Mike Modest, who was in the Beyond the Mat? He did a lot of work in Japan. And Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, how do you not sign this guy? Because you see the talent for his stature. He's very athletic. The BME, the best moonsault ever. Like, I just don't. I didn't never understood why nobody ever signed it. But then NWA TNA comes along, and then here we have the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels. Now, it's funny you mentioned Ring of Honor. Dan, as a fellow New Yorker, do you remember Lake Grove, New York? I'm talking about Sports Plus, where Ring of Honor used to do all those shows. Like, on the Northeast on Long Island, they would do shows at Sports Plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So I used to love going there, bro, and listening to. Remember "Disposable Teens" by Marilyn Manson was his theme.
Yeah.
Oh, Allison Danger was his manager. That was the sister of Steve Carino. Taking back memories, man. Ring of Honor. But yeah, that was my earliest memory of him. So go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
And he did. There was a show that WWE had. It was one of like their secondary or tertiary shows. It was like Jacked or Metal or
Yeah.
it was like one of the C shows where it was on at like maybe 1 or 2 in the morning on like the USA or whatever.
Yes.
Or it might even have been TNN before when it was the Nashville network.
Before it was Spike TV and it had like shows like Trucks and all that good stuff on there.
Now it's the Paramount network.
Yes.
Because
Not so Spike TV. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, TNN. There you go. Mm-hmm.
But I remember he did a couple, appearances there. I mean, it was just, I don't think he had the Fallen Angel gimmick. Like, I think he was just Chris Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Again, super talented guy. People see the BME and they think, oh, moonsault, whoopee-doo. But he's literally jumping from one turnbuckle to the next. And even at his age, and I think he's in his like mid to late 40s. Like he's getting up there.
He's almost 50. Yeah.
He can still pop that move off like it's nothing.
That's the beauty of it too, and I think what's great what he's doing in his role in AEW, he can help a lot of these young guys and gals. So he's in a definitive position, like a Jerry Lynn is, and Jerry Lynn, another one who's around that same age, is still killing it at his age.
Yeah, I mean, are they not? They're doing what people, in my opinion, of that age should be doing. I look at Daniels and I think the guy's an icon, and people say, well, why didn't WWE sign him? To remind you, WWE once had this one guy signed to them. The guy's name is Tyson Smith.
Tyson Kidd?
No, Tyson Smith.
Tyson Smith? There was okay. How long ago was this? Because, like I said, I didn't start until like early 2000s with WWE. Go ahead.
Tyson Smith guy. He was in OVW. Got let go. He bumped around to the Indies. Made a name for himself in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Then went to this promotion called AEW. He's now known as Kenny Omega.
Oh, okay. Now you see. All right, I forgot his real name was Tyson Smith. There you go. See, a lot of people. Thank you.
It's not a big thing that they had him, but they didn't, use him. It is what it is. But I remember my first real vivid memory of him in TNA, and maybe you can remember the name of the pay-per-view because I can't off the top of my head. It was a triple threat match for the X Division title. It was him versus AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe.
The infamous TNA Unbreakable 2005 main event. Yep.
Yep, and I think because honestly I don't remember much of the pay-per-view. I think that was the one where Sting debuted. Like I think it was like him and Jeff Hardy versus Jarrett and somebody else.
No, that was at Final Resolution 2006. That was Sting, and I can't remember who he was teaming with, but it was Sting and Christian Cage against Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown.
Okay, because it was at that because they had a triple threat at that match too, at that pay-per-view as well.
Yes, I believe I forgot what the hell match it was, but yes, I know there was AJ and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels main event. Okay, so here's what's cool about that. So my early memory of Christopher Daniels was since I started in 2004, and everybody will always talk about Triple X, him and primetime Elix Skipper against America's Most Wanted, the Elix Skipper Hurricane Run off the cage, and just how amazing that tag team feud was.
Oh yeah. Well, you look at a guy like Daniels. Daniels is one of those guys who he can he can mix it up with the light heavyweights. He can do the heavyweight. He can go in, he can be in there with guys like the Young Bucks, guys who, are like basically cruiserweights. Or he can throw down with guys that are like, Kenny Omega size or bigger dudes. If you remember, he had an amazing match in Ring of Honor, I want to say 2018, where he wrestled Cody Rhodes for the Ring of Honor title.
Which, how apropos was that a man whose legendary status in Ring of Honor, and he never won the Ring of Honor World title, and he finally won it.
I mean, that's similar to, you look at other people, I would consider Christopher Daniels to be like the independent version of Foley.
Mm-hmm.
Truly one of the best, and never really quite got the credit he deserved. When that time in Ring of Honor, you got to realize who all was there. You had that time, you had Bryan Danielson, you had Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Homicide, people like that.
AJ Styles was there. There was a lot of people, man.
And unfortunately, a wrestling promotion, you can only do so much. You only have so much room for, like, it's like a buffet. You only have so much room on your plate for such amount of food. It's like with any other company. AEW, they have a lot of tag teams. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough room for SCU.
I still don't get that, man, because they were the tag team champions. They were doing their thing. And here's the thing. I know they're doing stuff now with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, but you had Christopher Daniels do the stuff with the Dark Order, and God rest his soul, Brody Lee. That whole thing, man, they could have done so much more with it, but it's just like, ugh. And you know what it is, too, for me? Like, because Christopher Daniels during his tag team run there, I mentioned Triple X. Like, when him and Frankie Kazarian were Bad Influence, so entertaining. The Appletini, everything that was encompassed there. Him and AJ Styles when they were the tag champs. He is just so good singles and tag teams that SCU was so entertaining. He would come out with the mic and everything in general. He can make an Appletini be entertaining because he was so good in how he evolved and how he absorbed everything that was given to him.
Like, if you think, that's the mark, at least in my opinion, of a true great wrestler, that he handed turned it. He handed a horrible gimmick, and they turn it around into something great. My God, he was Curry Man.
Konnichiwa! Him and Shark Boy were a tag team when Shark Boy was acting like Stone Cold, and he got Curry Man over him. You know what I'm saying? He's hot, spicy, tastes great. He's Curry Man. And all he said was Konnichiwa and Masawa and all these Japanese legendary wrestlers, and it was funny. It got over. He had a place of fucking curry on his head. It worked.
Like, dude, it's one of those things. Yeah, you look at the gimmick, you look at what they're handed, and something that should not have gotten over, but did.
It's like the infamous, like, God rest his soul, Dusty Rhodes. You put him in polka dots, and he got it over. It's one of the most funniest thing and most entertaining and memorable moments in wrestling history.
Yeah. I mean, he got that music over. He's just a common man.
Working hard for them, man.
Like, people think I'm crazy when I say this, and I get it from indie fans. I get it from WWE fans. Christopher Daniels could have been the WWE champion.
I mean, to be honest with you, you're not wrong. You know what I'm saying? If Rey Mysterio can do it, if a lot of people have hit their size and stature, I mean, if Bryan Danielson can do it, you could have him as the WWE champion. I mean, like he finally won the Ring of Honor title. He's credible enough to work with a lot of different people, and it works. It's something that works under that, auspice.
He's great on the microphone. He's great in the ring. Like, that's what if I'm a promoter, which, eventually, you and I both know that's coming down the pike.
No spoilers yet, Dan.
Spoilers. We know we hate spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. if I owned a major promotion, I would want a guy like a Christopher Daniels. You know, a guy who's solid in the ring. You know, he can make anybody look good. You know, and really, you got other talent out there that they're good in the ring themselves, but maybe they can't get the other guy over. You know, I would say Christopher Daniels, in my opinion, is his generation's version of Jake Roberts.
I can see that. I definitely can see that. And here's the thing with me on him. Like, one of the things that I absolutely hated. So they changed up the Fallen Angel gimmick around like 2007. He came back very dark and he turned heel. And he had this match with Sting at Slammiversary '07. And I'm like, okay, if you could get this over, you could go in there with Sting and either win or just kill it. They only gave it 7 minutes, and it's probably one of the most it was not a good match, and Sting won with the Scorpion Death Drop. But I'm like, you had something here where you could have elevated Christopher Daniels, and then he just went back to like purgatory, man. X Division run, and then the Curry Man thing started. Then he gets fired, and he's had so many returns to Impact Wrestling now with this recent return last night, and I'm just like, God dang, man. But there's always a spot for Christopher Daniels, and I'll ask you because this ties into everything with AE. With AE,
At one,
good.
didn't he play the suicide character at 1.2?
Yes, right. Christopher Daniels was one. Frankie Kazarian was one. I'm sure there might have been another one, but those were like the two that really were the two suicide characters. Yep.
First was the first.
Yes, he was the first one. He was not the one in the video game. The video game was voiced by Loki, but yes, he was the first one on TV.
I don't even know who has it now, or who is the most recent. I think it was.
Yeah, TJP had it for a little bit when he was Manic. I couldn't even tell you who it is now, to be honest with you. I know Caleb Conley did for a little bit. I'm sure one of the Impact fans could tell us who Suicide is now, but yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you.
But yeah, going back, I think Daniel, the fact that he never had a run as a TNA champion, or even like with a run with the NWA title, like I think he would. Even Abyss had a short run with the NWA title.
Oh, don't get me started with that. The man lost the title because it's old school rules. He lost the title on the disqualification. Or no, he won the title, excuse me, on disqualification. Like, that's how it's the NWA title.
I mean, I remember when that happened. Like, I remember reading, the wrestling news sites, and the whole reaction was okay. Like, nobody understood it because it's archaic. They tried to make it shocking. The point I'm trying to make is you have Abyss as a world champion, and nothing against Abyss. I'm an Abyss fan. Always have been, always will be. Why didn't Christopher Daniels get that same opportunity?
Man, it's funny because I remember in 2009, like, they tried to recreate what they did for the X Division title in '05 when it was Styles, Daniels, or Joe, but this time it was for the world title. And it was good. It was good, but it was not like the '05 match. And, like, I don't recall any other time, like, him going for, like, the world title as long as AJ Styles was the champ. Because, like, '09, that's what I'm saying. Because mostly after that, it was the tag team run. You know what I'm saying? It was the tag team run with Kazarian as Bad Influence. But then he left, and then they took it to Ring of Honor. And then now, here we are in AEW with SCU with Scorpio Sky. But yeah, man, but I think what's cool about it is, too, and this is where it takes back to the point here, Dan. God dang, man, how cool is it to see, like, the Impact in AEW? People talk about the relationship or, like, it's non-existent because how many people did we see on Impact go to AEW when there's more people on AEW that go to Impact? And now we have Daniels and Kazarian's been on Impact, and we see that. We've seen Private Party on Impact, but mostly everybody is, on AEW. So what do you think about that and an AEW star and Christopher Daniels coming back home to Impact Wrestling?
I'm cautiously optimistic. And I'll tell you why. You had mentioned, they kind of dropped the ball with him in, '08, '09, that time. And I will say, Impact is on the up and up, it seems. Like, I'm not so sure that they're going to be where they were, when we had guys like Joe and AJ and all that.
Yeah, not like when 05 and 06 when they started going to Spike TV and they started hitting on cylinders and getting the primetime spot.
So I'm cautiously optimistic. Like I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I want to see how this plays out. And kind of see where they go with it. I personally, I mean, maybe this is, because hey, who doesn't love a good feel good wrestling moment?
Right.
In Christopher Daniels finally win the TNA title or Impact title, or
Well, the thing too that I love about it too is like they could set up him and Josh Alexander because he's the X Division legend. Because Josh Alexander, the walking weapon, who's an absolute athletic machine at brick shit house against a legend like Daniels. He's wrestled Saban. He's going to be wrestling Christian Cage for the world title. He just cashed in option C, so he's no longer the champion, and he's going against Christian Cage at Bound for Glory. But it's one of those things, man. Like if he can help work with a young kid like Ace Austin, who again, someone so young, who's so agile, and who's on the up and up. Like I mean, the perfect protagonist to the antagonist that is Ace Austin. That's a nice little mesh for Christopher Daniels.
it is. It's. I think and Daniels seems like the kind of guy that is not concerned with getting himself over. He's comfortable in who he is. Like he knows he's Christopher Daniels. He's the fallen angel. He knows who he is. It's not like some of these older guys who refuse to put over the younger talent. Not like a Terry Bollea refusing to put over Shawn Michaels.
Yep. Sorry, it's still one of the best sell jobs. Just fucking Michaels flopping over like a fish. It's great. It's so fucking awesome. Taking it back to 05.
Like you go back to other guys, and if you recall, and I'm gonna tie this in.
Okay.
If you recall, if you ever saw the Dark Side of the Ring episode with the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh my God, yes.
There was a segment where I was talking with Jake Roberts, where he mentioned how he was supposed to get a run as the WWE champion, but Warrior didn't like putting people over. To me, Danielson is the exact opposite. He's put people over. He put the Young Bucks over.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys like him, Kazarian. I mean, they got Scorpio Sky over in a big way.
Oh yeah, with what they're doing now with him and Ethan Page and the Dan Lambert stuff with the American Top Team and the whole nine.
Which honestly, that I enjoy that. I like that.
Me too. And the thing about Dan Lambert that I like, besides the fact that he's a belt collector like yours truly, man, I did see that Treasures thing on A&E and how friggin' stoked he is to be a professional wrestling fan and a belt collector like yourself, Dan. But goddamn, that dude loves professional wrestling, and he's doing what Jim Cornette does on his show. He's like the Jim Cornette, talk about the high spots and just talk about everything in general. And the thing about it, too, is he's not wrong in what he's saying, but he's so good at just being that absolute dickhead that you cannot love Dan Lambert.
Yeah, I mean, with Daniels, like, he just knows how to connect with an audience.
He does. He's one of those guys where you can put him as a babyface, you can put him as a heel, you're going to get a reaction. And that's the main thing when it comes to fans. You get the reaction.
I think if you think back, if you're in that locker room, if you're a young talent just coming up, and they've got a ton of them, you got a guy like Danielson there, learn from him. Listen to what he says. Listen to any advice he can give you. I would say it's similar to guys in WWE, that would say whenever The Undertaker was around, they would listen to whatever he was saying. AJ, much like Joe, guys from that time, they know. They've seen it. They've done it. They've been all around the world. And Danielson can cut a great promo. So I'm excited to see what he does. Does he go physical route, or does he just? Which I hope so. I'd love to see the guy wrestle.
Man, when it comes to Christopher Daniels, if you want to give Ace Austin a moment, you have him, because the Bound for Glory card right now it's Christian and Josh Alexander. So there's a young talent going against a veteran that is Christian, because when you think of TNA during 06, when he was the champ, Christian Cage was the guy. And also you have Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo. It's a veteran going against this youngster, this badass youngster that is the virtuosa, Miss Deonna Purrazzo. And if you can have a featured bout with Ace Austin against Christopher Daniels, and Ace Austin hits that fold, that running blockbuster onto Christopher Daniels, that is a huge win for him, and it keeps elevating him for everybody that he's faced, for everything that he's done, because he just came off a great match with Christian Cage. So, like I said, the sky's the limit. The sky is the limit.
Yeah, I think, and you could build it to where Danielson eventually has the whole doubting himself, ends up maybe finally winning the Impact title. Because, I'll be honest, Christian Cage doesn't need that title.
No, but what he does is he also elevates a lot of the young guys for whoever finally beats him. And actually, here's a funny fact. Like, for a lot of people that don't recall, like in the mid-2000s when Christian was the TNA champ, the NWA champ at the time, he actually wrestled Christopher Daniels in Ring of Honor. Christian only did 2 appearances. It was him and Daniels one-on-one, and it was him and it was him and Cole Cabana against the American Dragon Bryan Danielson and Christopher Daniels. So, I mean, there's some history there with Christian and Christopher Daniels. I'd love to see it. I mean, with AEW and the Impact tie-ins, man, the possibilities are endless unless they keep moving forward with it.
Exactly. It's like, I think it's great that at his age, and I don't know Daniel's exact age. I think he's late 40s.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I think he is. I'm going to take a look right now as we're talking. Go ahead.
I think, it's the fact that he's able to consistently go is great.
It's one of those things, too. Like, a lot of people were talking about Sting's performance on Dynamite this week with him and Darby against, FDR. Sting was smooth. He was crisp. But I will say this right now, because this ties in with the veterans. I do not want to see him and Tully Blanchard go one-on-one in 2021. I don't want to do it. And he is 51. Holy hell. Christopher Daniels is 51. There you go. Okay. And he's fucking amazing. So,
to make that divergent,
yes.
I do think we are going to get Tully versus
Sting. So Tony Khan, who is 38 years old, is booking something that he saw when he was like 8. And he wants to relive his childhood dream from the late 80s, boy, when the Four Horsemen were feuding with Sting. And so we got to get 62-year-old Sting against 67-year-old Tully Blanchard, because we got to do it.
I'm sorry, and I'm going to catch flack from certain people.
Yes.
You know who.
I'm aware.
A lot of the AEW fans, I don't mind Sting being there, in the occasional match, but somebody like Sting should be a special attraction. Somebody like Paul White should be a special attraction, because at Sting's advanced age, he's in his 60s. Any match he is in is a risk.
Yes, especially with what happened in 2015 with Seth Rollins in that Buckle Bomb.
And, wasn't Seth Rollins' fault.
It wasn't, no.
And the thing of it is, with Sting, he's going to risk a serious injury. And Tully, I mean, maybe, 15, 20 years ago, they could have done something.
Oh, God, I think the last match that Tully had that was one-on-one, he wrestled Shane Douglas in ECW, and it went to, like, a draw. And I've never seen it, and I don't want to see it, but from what I heard back in the day, it was the shits. So, I mean, like I said, we haven't seen Tully really wrestle. I know he did the 6-man tag and when he was with FTR against, was it the Jurassic Express or whoever it was in AEW, and he wrestled, it was a tag. You know what I'm saying? It was a tag. It's not totally in there one-on-one.
I am fine with that. Like, if you're gonna put Sting in there,
Protect.
tag him.
Yeah, protect him.
You know, because if I remember right, I think Tully had some injuries too. I think he had either a bad back or a bad neck.
No, I think Tully was the back.
Oh yeah, Tully was the back. Because I forget what. I almost feel like there was a car accident or something.
That was Magnum TA, I think. No, that was the motorcycle accident. That was Magnum TA.
Okay, so Tully, you said was the motorcycle accident.
No, Magnum TA was a motorcycle accident. I think Tully had some back issue, and I know him and Arn had like similar issues with their back, but I know that was one of the reasons why Arn retired because of his injuries.
And why he gave Kurt Hennig his spot.
Yes.
You'll get.
It's just okay. I have flashbacks of now Ric Flair cutting the promo on Eric Bischoff in the Four Horsemen. You're a liar. You're a cheat. You are a no good son of a bitch.
Now, I will say, as long as they can be protected and do it, if you want to do even a cinematic match.
Well, they did that with him and Darby against Ethan Page and Scorpio. Yep, and that whole thing with Brian Cage and Team Taz. Yep.
If you want to bring in Tully and do like a cinematic with he and Sting, to where both guys can be protected, sure.
And you could include Darby and FTR doing some spots, sure.
But otherwise, no.
And that's the thing. I don't want to see it. I didn't want to. And here's the thing too, because of Flair, and I know Ric Flair's been in the news a lot with everything that's transpired from Dark Side of the Ring. My goodness. But that was the thing with him going in AEW, being with Andrade, and I don't want to see 20 years later Ric Flair and Sting, because the last time we saw them was the WCW Nitro. That sucked. Yeah. And I mean, they wrestled in TNA once in like 2011, but I still didn't want to see it then. You know what I'm saying? So.
If you listen to interviews with Flair from years ago, he addresses the last match with Sting, and he said it was a horrible match.
Oh yeah, well, because they both weren't into it.
Yeah, he said neither one of them were in a good place. And look, I'll be honest. AEW will sign Ric Flair. They're gonna wait for the heat to die down, and it will. I mean, and it's at this point, to quote Eric Bischoff, controversy creates cash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, WWE brought back the Ultimate Warrior.
Yep.
And he made some pretty incendiary comments.
Yeah, and they brought him back for the video game, and then they put him in Hall of Fame.
I mean, I am not condoning what Ric Flair did at all. I think Ric Flair is a loathsome person, But at the same time, do I think somebody will eventually sign him up? Absolutely.
Well, the thing too, also this ties into Impact, since this is the Adrenaline Rush podcast. I will say this one other final Impact note, since we did talk about the great career that is Christopher Daniels. One person that he has faced on indies, I can't remember which indie. I'm sure it was a House of Hardcore. The hell, they may have even wrestled each other in TNA. But Tommy Dreamer, I talked about it last week. Holy hell, rightfully suspended. But goddamn, man, I wanted to get your thoughts because you weren't on the shizzo with me last week. What'd you think about Tommy Dreamer? And I know you love you some Tommy Dreamer. I've met Tommy Dreamer, nice guy, but good God, for what he said on Dark Side of the Ring.
So let me put it to you this way, again, like you said, I'm a Tommy Dreamer guy. I'm a fan. I've met Tommy. He's an okay guy from what I know, but again, I would equate it to Tommy's one of the boys. Tommy Dreamer is, I think he said it to try and make light of the situation as to one of the boys. It's like, it's a guy, he's just one of the guys. It's just.
Well, it's like Mike Chioda when he was like, man, back in the day we had H-bombs in the 80s and that. It was almost like a toned down version of what Mike Chioda was saying.
And it's just like, you can't do that.
Yeah, and I know it was 19 years ago, but still, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that in this day and age now where you're lightly or pretty much kind of making light of sexual abuse that this poor woman had to have on the plane. And, dude, you know what else pissed me off on that episode? Fucking Terry Runnels with, oh, don't sell it. And I'm like, well, Terry, maybe if you told somebody about it or said something, how many times I'd have to do it. That pissed me off, that Terry Runnels comment,
And, it's like people, are kind of dragging JR through the mud.
Oh, yes, because, how come Ric Flair didn't get a pass? Yeah, how come Ric Flair got a pass? I'm like, well, he was Ric Flair. And which is no excuse.
You got to figure Ric Flair is, I forget who made the comment, but they said Ric Flair's a made guy. It's like he's Ric Flair. And do I think that got covered up? I mean, because we all know, any wrestling fan who's been watching the show a number of years, you, me, people watching this will probably that know about it. We all know that the plane ride from where happened. We've known for years. I don't think people knew to the extent
Of how bad it actually was.
Exactly. I think we all kind of knew.
Well, we knew about Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, serenading his wife very drunkenly. We knew about the ponytail, Michael P.S. Hayes getting that ponytail cut off. And we knew about the Flair situation, but we didn't know really how bad it was. And we didn't know about Scott Hall trying to lick her face. No, we had no idea about that, but it was bad.
And wasn't there, if I remember right, there's something about, and mind you, I've got to rewatch the episode because,
Oh, Brock Lesnar and Mr. Perfect. Yeah, the Brock Lesnar Mr. Perfect.
And Mr. Perfect trying to hit the perfect plex on Brock Lesnar on a 30,000 in the air.
30,000 feet in the air. They're tackling into the emergency door. Good Lord. Ugh.
And I don't think people knew how bad it was, and if they did, they'd forgotten.
Yep.
And like the Dreamer thing, that saddens me. That he made light of it. He's like, it's Ric Flair.
It's Ric Flair. Like, it's what he does. And I'm like, it doesn't mean it's right. You know what I'm saying?
The thing that gets me is this was probably shot a while ago.
Oh, yeah. And then it aired now. But the thing, too, is you also got to take into account here, Dan, like Tommy Dreamer, married to the beautiful Miss Beulah McGillicuddy. They have 2 daughters. So how would Tommy Dreamer feel? And I said this last week. I'll say it here again. How would he feel if that was his daughters? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. But what I'm saying is just from a PR standpoint.
Okay.
This was shot probably a couple months ago.
Yes, before it originally aired. Yep.
Why did he not come out ahead of this? He had an opportunity and say, hey, look, this is what happened. Some things are going to come out. Get ahead of the situation.
And then Impact found out and just was like, no, we don't tolerate this. We're going to suspend you.
Do I think he's going to end up being back in Impact? Absolutely.
Yeah. Not right now. Until when this whole thing dies down, I could absolutely see Tommy Dreamer coming back.
I mean, I think it's different than like, a Ric Flair kind of situation where Dreamer was primarily, and again, I'm not trying to, make light of it. I think Dreamer, it was less action. It was more like what he was saying that was horrible. So, again, I'm not saying one thing is better or worse than the other, but I think I'd be more apt to think Impact will give Dreamer another chance because this is kind of like the first time we're two with him. Whereas Ric Flair, like, how many times has he gotten in trouble?
Lots and lots and lots. A bunch, a dozen, a million, 1,000.
It's not like now he doesn't have, Vince McMahon to back him up. He doesn't have, Paul Levesque to kind of
like talk to him, say, hey, Rick, you might want to cut that out.
Like he made the chance to walk away from, from that. And I think, people are saying, oh, it's Ric Flair, it's Ric Flair. Yeah, that doesn't make it okay.
Doesn't.
And I hope Like Rick needs to walk away. This isn't the 1980s anymore. He's not, who he used to be. Walk away. Ric Flair destroyed, in my opinion, he destroyed his own legacy, much like Hulk Hogan kind of destroyed his.
Well, the thing with Flair, too, like when he left the WWE in 08, after the infamous I'm Sorry I Love You, Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 24, when he came to TNA in 2010 and they did the stuff with AJ and Immortal, and then he's just bleeding like a gusher. The only thing I will say that I loved about his TNA run was the woo off with Jay Lethal and the feud with Jay Lethal. That was the antithesis of one of his best things. That
promo. One.
Yep.
How many times have you seen that shared on Facebook over the years?
Dozens and dozens and dozens, because it's memorable. We're still talking about it 11 years later because it's funny and it's awesome.
I will share. How many times have you seen me share that?
You've shared it on social media, guys. If you've not seen Dan on Facebook, he shares that all the time. It's one of his favorite shirts, one of his favorite promos.
Great. Like, it is like, again,
man, he made Jay Lethal a star with that promo.
Go back to Christopher Daniels. They had chemistry.
Yep.
Like Blair and Jay Lethal, it worked. It worked like Christopher Daniels had chemistry with Joe and AJ.
And all of them, yeah. And that's the thing, too. Like, you can make it work. That was my problem with him. And I will say this, a couple final things. When Christopher Daniels left TNA, because they were doing some fun stuff with Bad Influence, but they wouldn't listen to their ideas. They wanted to, win they didn't really want to win the title. They wanted to help put people over. They've talked about, what they wanted to do with this direction, where we're with the titles, without the titles. They had a plan for the TV title, but no one would listen to them.
Now, here's the thing. Was there a TNA television title? I mean, so know something about that because I'm a belt guy.
Yes, you are.
So,
well, it was redesigned as it was originally the Legends title, then it was the TV title, and then it's the King of the Mountain.
There's more. There's more to. I don't know if you know about this.
Okay.
At one time, there was a different title made.
Okay.
For the TNA Television Championship. If I recall, it was shortly before the rebranding to Impact. It might even have been in Impact 2. I'm not 100% certain.
So they did a thing with Abyss where he beat Devon, who was in the Ices and Ites. That was like 2013. And then the belt kind of went into the shitter. But they did a lot with AJ Styles and Doug Williams at the time. And that was the thing, though. It was originally the design that they've used. It was the Legends title, then it was the Global title, and then we had the TV title. Everything wrapped in one. Go ahead.
But no, they created a new title, different design. I've seen it. Like, I've seen it out there. If I can track down a picture of it, because I've seen it and it didn't look bad. Like, some collector out there owns the TNA Television Championship, and for whatever reason they scrapped it. It never got used. And honestly, it happens all the time. It's not just it's not just TNA Impact, not just AEW, it's WWE too. You'll have companies that'll get a belt made and it'll change. WWE, for example, the tag titles, there are new versions out there that have, the interchangeable side plates. Supposedly they've been done for quite some time. And, we just don't know why they haven't come out. I will say about Impact, I think their current crop of championships are perfect. You got the Knockouts title, looks great. I like the look of it. The world title that Christian Cage has, I like that one. I like the look of it. It's something different, And I like that their titles don't look the exact same.
No, and that's true. Like they've redone the X Division title, they brought back the Knockouts tag titles. Like they freshened it up.
As opposed to another company based out of Connecticut that you know, where you have let's see, one
that's red, one that's blue.
you have like 6 titles that all look the same, like that we've seen time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
And like, give us something different. Like, I love the look of the current crop of the TNA titles. The only ones I will say that I kind of on are the tag titles, because to me they look like the old Ring of Honor TV title.
That's a good assessment. Yep.
But I think to make a final point on the Fallen Angel,
Yeah.
I think with him being in TNA, I think you have the opportunity to where he can be not just a manager, or sorry, not just a wrestler, but a manager too. There's rumors that Adam Scherr, which formerly known as Braun Strowman, is headed to Impact. I think if I'm booking this out, as to what to do with him, I would put him with a manager. I would put him with a guy like Christopher Daniels. I think he would be perfect for him. I think Christopher Daniels could do for Adam Scherr what Sting is doing for Darby Allin.
That's another great point. Here's the thing with Braun, Adam Scherr. I mean, he can talk, but it's just he's that monster. You know what I'm saying? He really doesn't need to say anything. So Daniels, great mouthpiece. But that's the thing too, man. You bring him in. I mean, there was talks. Well, I think Bray Wyatt is mostly. I think we're leaning towards AEW. But if you put him in Impact with like the Decay and stuff like that, I think wherever he goes, the creative juices will be flowing. But that's the thing. If you bring in Buddy Murphy, if you bring in people like a Braun Strowman into Impact, like I said, the sky's the limit for everyone. And I mean, if you include Daniels more, I mean, wrestling wise, coach wise, what have you, that's what's great about professional wrestling. It's a great time to be a professional wrestler. And of course, with the name of this podcast, the Adrenaline Rush Podcast, how nostalgia is that? Go ahead, man.
I made this point, to you, to everybody else. You look at what we have. We have Monday night. The schedule. I don't know the entire schedule because I usually don't watch things live. But we've got Raw. We've got NXT 2.0, because I guess it's not called just NXT anymore.
We're 2.0, man. We're 2.0.
So we got NXT, we got we got Raw, we've got Impact, we've got AEW, we've got AEW Dark Elevation, Rampage, all this stuff. And we got MLW. We've got so much stuff that is building up. And it is an amazing time to be a fan. Like, for so long, all we had was WWE.
And then TNA comes along, and then Ring of Honor's coming along. Everything has changed the landscape from where we were in 2002, a year after the fall of WCW and ECW, to where we are now in the year 2021, Mr. Crimmins.
It's an amazing time to be a fan, and that we've actually, and what I've said this to friends, the more competition that's out there, the greater opportunities we have for the wrestlers out there, because maybe you have somebody that didn't work out in WWE. There's nothing wrong with that. But then, there's other companies. There's MLW, there's New Japan. Like, we've got guys that came over from New Japan that, did we ever really think we'd see Minoru Suzuki on, live television?
No.
We've got Nick. We had a death match on live network television.
Mm-hmm.
If you had told me this, that we would be seeing this years ago, I would have thought you were crazy.
Exactly. But everything is so, like I said, you think of the stuff that was so unheard of, and now it's like it's right here at our fingertips. It's right in front of you. I mean, that's the beauty about competition. You know what I'm saying? You said controversy creates cash. Competition is healthy. Everything in this thing that we call life, man. So I will say this, Mr. Daniel Crimmins, to follow up on your final point, folks. It's Adrenaline Rush. It's the Adrenaline Rush podcast, the adrenaline rush that is professional wrestling, and the adrenaline rush that is Impact. So, Daniel Crimmins, do you have any final words before we roll on out of here?
My final words. Professional wrestling is a beautiful thing. There's something for everybody. Whatever you like, there's a niche for it. You just gotta find it, and it's a beautiful thing.
Enjoy pro wrestling. Love pro wrestling. Just enjoy life, my friends. The Adrenaline Rush. The Adrenaline Rush. This has been the Adrenaline Rush podcast. Mike Larkin, Daniel Crimmins. We'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace!